Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Really excited to do a US Open 2023 review with myself, David, Anthony, and Hasan as well. So 4 of us to answer your burning questions and also give some of our thoughts as well. So yeah, looking forward to that, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it as well. And yeah, guys, how are you all doing first of all?
Doing
Great.
good, doing good.
Yeah, good.
Good. So I'm messing about with the layout. We've got a few people in the chat actually with questions already, but before we get into that, very quickly, should we just go around and get your guys' brief thoughts on like the results of the US Open and what were you expecting it? Who do you pick? I know your picks, but everyone else might not. And what surprised you maybe a little bit? Should we go David, Anthony, and Hasan in that order?
Yeah, I mean, for the men's side, I wasn't surprised. I mean, Djokovic was the favorite going in, especially with Cincinnati. I think without Cincinnati, would have kind of you would have known maybe, but with that kind of statement performance against Alcaraz, you thought, well, he's the favorite in the men's side. But Coco Gauff, I mean, I personally didn't think she'd be able to carry that through into the actual US Open, but she proved a lot of people wrong this last couple of months, and I'm included. I'm more than happy to see her get her maiden Grand Slam.
Yeah, Anthony.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so Goff's improvements have been really crazy to watch. First winning her first 500 title, then her first 1,000 title, and then getting her first major was really kind of crazy to watch in real time. Just really quick improvements. I mean, obviously she's one of the quicker learners of the game, getting out there at like 15, but to do it as quickly as she did was really kind of phenomenal to me. And then yeah, Novak. I mean. I was thinking maybe after the Cincinnati final, Alcaraz Djokovic, they'd be exhausted, especially Djokovic at 36, long season. But Djokovic proved yet again that he's just so far above the pack at the moment. So
Yeah.
Nice one. Yeah. On the men's side, I think you remember when the draws came out and we were talking as well. On the Djokovic side, we knew it would take a miracle for him not to reach the final. And on the other side, most people expected Alcaraz to make it. We know Medvedev is always there. He loves playing in these conditions, but given how easily Alcaraz dispatched him this year, twice, although different conditions, people expected Alcaraz to maybe get that win. But yeah, fantastic run for Medvedev. He had a heck of a performance in the final. I'm sure we'll delve into that later. But yeah, crazy final. And Novak, man, he's the king. On the women's side, yeah, I did not expect Coco to be able to handle that pressure so well in this particular tournament. She did that. Well, it was a ridiculous run for her. Yeah, Sabalenka against the number one. I really like her. She made it to the final. She was my pick to win the final. Bet got it. But yeah, it was a great tournament.
Yeah, it was. It was a great tournament. Thanks, guys, for your quick oversight into even the US Open, the final slam of the year as well. And yeah, Novak, 3 out of the last 4 slams now, so one of his best years of his career, which is pretty incredible to be honest with you, and the oldest champion in the Open era as well. So I mean, look, we can go through all the records, but every time he wins a slam, the records just keep on piling up. But Coco Gauff was really impressive, and I'm shout out to Ash as well and me for picking her to win. I'm not going to talk about the men's because I got that wrong, but I did have Djokovic Alcaraz final, Alcaraz somehow winning. But yeah, I think Gauff was really impressive. And I was really impressed with the way she came back in that first set after getting pretty well. I thought she got dismantled really in that first set by Sabalenka, and then she recovered mentally really well. Didn't let it bother her too much. And what was really interesting to see the fist bumps after losing some points, almost to say like there are some points where I think Sabalenka just played too well in that point, and Gauff pushed her though, and Gauff was almost trying to say, look, I've done what I need to do. She's played really well on that point, but you know what? I'm just going to force her to really win the point. I'm not going to give her anything easy, basically. And that was really good. And she clearly had a very clear game plan on how she wants to play after that first set. And of course, the the addition of Brad Gilbert as well, who we've had on the channel before. Everyone's talking about that, but I think, you know, it's been coming. It was just a question of when it was going to happen. Was it going to happen now? Was it going to happen in 3 years, 4 years, potentially as well? But yeah, look, I mean, I think the women's was potentially more exciting than the men's because Medvedev Alcaraz, even though Medvedev played really well against Alcaraz, it wasn't a 5-set thriller. It was actually pretty comprehensive in the end. And then I felt like he was a bit wasted a little bit in the final, Medvedev, because maybe more mentally than maybe physically, he was spent a little bit from playing the Alcaraz match. I felt like he had to really think about that after how he'd been destroyed so much in the semi-final, in the previous matches against Alcaraz. And Djokovic, we know how important that second set was as well, but he came through really impressively. So yeah, high quality. Was it 37 out of 44 net points won as well for Djokovic, which is like unbelievable to be honest with you. I'd say the least against someone like Medvedev, but yeah, let's get through the questions because I think we'll probably start touching upon reviewing it anyways. So yeah, keep the questions coming. Keep them. Let's start with Matt. Matt, shout out to you as well. Or doing our social media on X as well, and X and Threads or Twitter, whatever. Says, other than the special moments like Coco winning her first slam, did you feel the quality of play was a little down this year from the previous 2 years? It's a good question. I can go first. I think on the WTA side, I thought it was pretty good, to be honest. I thought the quality was quite high. You could say, well, Swiatek didn't make it really deep, but that to me probably proves that the level was quite high because it means that she wasn't able to just demolish everyone in her path. And Ostapenko, we know, is dangerous, but Sabalenka has been super consistent throughout the whole year. Made at least a semi. What was it now? So she's made a final, won one, and 2 other Grand Slam semi-finals this year, which is really impressive. Won number 1 as well. Coco Gauff had played really well throughout the whole US Open series, and I think in the end it was pretty deserving. The men's side, I was a little bit. I think Djokovic played really well from the start. Apart from that Djer match, Alcaraz I don't think was quite up to his level. And Medvedev kind of peaked at the Alcaraz match. I think the final was a bit disappointing, but I thought the level wasn't too bad. What do you guys think? Should we flip it? Do you want to go Hasan, Anthony, David?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Both for the men's and the women's side. Women's side, yeah. Apart from Coco's run, yeah, Ostapenko won. Yeah, some people might have been surprised, but yeah, let's not forget she already had a 3-love head-to-head against her, and she even said in the press conference that Swiatek doesn't like playing big hitters, and I just make her feel uncomfortable. So yeah, that was an upset, but not entirely shocking by any means. But yeah, I think Sabalenka, hats off to her. She is the most consistent player throughout the year, and yeah, she's did a fantastic job throughout the year. On the men's side, yeah, the Sinner-Zverev match I thought was a pretty good, decent quality match as well. Zverev, we'd been talking about the tournament as well, that the guy, he's getting back his game back, and we all know how dangerous he is. Let's not forget the level he had attained before he destroyed his ankle. So yeah, I thought the final as well. The second set was ridiculous quality, but yeah, the third was expected to be a bit of a letdown after that Medvedev somehow not still winning, and Novak just doesn't lose tiebreaks. I don't know what the guy eats before heading to tiebreaks. He just won't go away in tiebreaks. It's absurd. He just finds a way to win them, and yeah, it's absurd. But I enjoyed the final. Would have been great to see a 5-setter, but I understand why it wasn't.
Yeah, no, well said, Anthony.
Yeah. So I understand where you're coming from, Matt. I think I think that there were very good highs throughout the tournament. Like that second set, that final was definitely electric, and I felt like Gauff showed up and played an amazing level as well. And there were times when Alcaraz and Medvedev played their best as well. But I felt like some of the top 10 players were a little bit lacking in their kind of going as deep as they're expected to. Tsitsipas lost in the second round to Stricker. Rune lost the first round to Corbez Baena, who's a great player, great ground strokes, but generally more so a clay player. And that's just not a match that Rune wants to be losing at this point, as he's trying to find better consistency in the majors. And then also, you have a player like Casper Ruud going out in the second round, and it's just like it feels like some of those guys in the top 10 aren't finding their consistency. On the women's side, I was surprised by actually not just the top 10 players, but a lot of players outside the top 10, like Madison Keys or on Cercea, finding a good level, hitting absolutely massive forehands. I felt like that was a great surprise this tournament. So there were highs, but I felt like the top 10 consistency, especially on the men's side, isn't quite where I want it to be. So I want to point that out. So I can understand where you're coming from with that.
Yeah. Before we go on to David, actually, you make a really good point. I think the WTA was actually more consistent in terms of seeds this tournament than the ATP side. Obviously, we know that, and it's kind of weird to say because the semi-finals for the men's, the top 3 seeds were there.
Yeah, no, that's
Djokovic,
true.
Alcaraz, Medvedev. But you're right in the sense that apart from that, like going into the quarterfinals, the round of 16, like a lot of seeds had fallen, like you were saying. Whereas on the women's side, I feel like they definitely lasted longer in terms of going into week 2 anyway. And that was what was really impressive. And some of the players that played really well this year, like Von Drusova won Wimbledon, she backed it up and made, what was it, the quarterfinals? I thought it was all round of 16. And Madison Keys, obviously, as well, playing well coming into it.
Yeah.
She played quite well. So, yeah, there was like some continuity, you'd say, form-wise, which is quite nice to see. So that was good. David, what were your thoughts?
So for the men's side, I kind of disagree with Anthony on the top 10 consistency. Well, with taking Fazan and Anthony's points, like a lot of like lower seeds and people like Tsitsipas dropped before the 4th round. So the 3rd and 4th rounds were kind of almost lacking in that way. But then when you see the quarterfinals, I mean, apart from like the outlier of Ben Shelton, I mean, you expect everyone to kind of be there. At least I know Zverev was a tough matchup for Sinner, and there was a lot of straightforward kind of. I don't think it helped with the elements as well. The humidity, it kind of can tire out the tennis and tire out the tactics and the possibility for some more entertaining tennis at times where it can just be survival of the fittest instead of out tacting each other. But yeah, I get what you're saying, but there's obviously the highs like semifinals, Alcaraz, Medvedev. I think that was a high level, especially for Medvedev and Alcaraz. I mean, they both just pushed each other, and that was a high. But I do understand it wasn't a sustained high like other tournaments.
Yeah, I think it was more the fact that we
and I understand what you're saying as well, for sure. And I mean, Medvedev, I felt like throughout a lot of the tournament, he pushed to an insane high against Alcaraz, but he definitely brought a very high level. I guess those top 3 guys, to me, brought a higher level than the 4 through 10 guys, where I felt like their consistency was a little bit just not quite there how I wanted to, which for the scope of the whole tournament, that kind of pushed it down. But I totally understand what you're saying. The top, I felt like Alcaraz, Medvedev, and Djokovic are playing a very high level at the moment.
People kind of played their roles and then kind of let themselves go a bit against the players they were supposed to lose against. Kind of.
Yeah.
Like Rublev.
Yeah, agree. And Rublev was a bit of a heartbreaker because he was a breakup, wasn't he, against Medvedev in that first set. And then you're like, oh, maybe it's going to change. Maybe he's going to do something. He's going to finally make his first Grand Slam semi-final, and it feels like he's got the level to like at least make a Slam final. But yeah, just not to be. And that's a bad matchup. But the problem is that Medvedev, Djokovic, and Alcaraz are going to be going deep in a lot of these tournaments, if not all the Grand Slams at the moment. And he doesn't have a particularly good matchup. It's not a particularly good matchup for Rublev against any of them, to be honest. So, yeah, I think that's the issue. And Gene said actually he was a breakup in all the sets, and he's right. So I think that kind of, there's maybe a bit of a mental block there as well. So he needs to get over that. And he got over the Masters one by winning that, which is great. But this is the next stage. But I think the problem with the men's side is maybe that it's pretty apparent now that Djokovic, Alcaraz, Medvedev on hard courts anyway, at least, there is a chasm between those 3 and the rest of the field, because Zverev is kind of coming back, but he's still not at that level. Tsitsipas has been all over the place, like Australian Open final, and then didn't do anything since, really. And Casper Ruud, again, final last year. He's just been nowhere since the Roland Garros final, and there's been a real lack of consistency, I think, from a lot of the top players. Holger Rune, of course, I think he was carrying an injury, but again, like, not maybe been as consistent and hasn't challenged as much as people would have wished. So yeah, it's just one of those things, I think. Whereas on the women's side, I feel like a lot of the players that we thought would do well have, which is nice to see, because I think before it was like there was a period where Swiatek, after Barty retired, was kind of dominating massively, and we were a bit worried that, oh, hold on, she's going to dominate loads, and there's not really going to be massive rivals. But then Rybakina came, and Sabalenka came, and it's like, great. Jabeur came. This is what we want. We want these guys to kind of battle out. And now we've got Coco Gauff as well, so it's fantastic for that. Matt, so what did you think of Coco calling out the haters? I don't know. I think she's just saying that it makes us stronger in terms of her mentality. I think it's more like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and just proving them wrong, I guess. But does anyone have any real thoughts on that at all? Strong thoughts on that?
I think it's ridiculous that there's haters in the first place, considering like number 4 in the world peak.
That's because they're the same age
by
as
the
her, David.
time
That's why.
she's 19, it's like, what? I don't know what if they're just expecting some like Tracy Austin, like was she supposed to win slams at like 15, 16? I don't. It's insane what people say on social media.
Yeah,
To be honest.
it's crazy. They can create hate out of anything. Coco is so likable, and what she's done at such a young age is incredible. But yeah, you'd always have people saying shit.
Yeah, true. Ghost in the house as well, and he's very disappointed that Eliza's not here. So apologies, Ghost. We're not pretty enough for him, so it's fine. It's all good. Says Djokovic is a beast, unstoppable. Yeah, that's true. And I guess some comments here rather than questions. For me, Cincinnati is when Djokovic establishes GOAT bona fides. The US Open final was bland. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could argue that the Cincinnati final was more exciting than the US Open final, given how competitive the Cincinnati final was. But yeah, if you just take it from an isolated match point of view, that is.
Yeah. I have Cincinnati. We know was a massive match, but to me, this match proved something about Djokovic, which I hadn't seen before to an extent. It was evident from this match. Djokovic knows he can't go toe to toe with Medvedev from the baseline, and it was pretty clear. I think there was a game 3-1. Djokovic was serving, and it was a ridiculous 30-plus short rally, and already Djokovic was panting for his breath. Next 2 points, he serves and volleys. It's absurd. So he knew it, and he showed a new dimension to his game. We knew he could serve and volley. People are saying that, oh, he came to the net 40-plus times, but remember the 21 US Open final? It's crazy, but he went to the net, I think, 40 times back then as well, but it was for different reasons. That day he was lost. He was figuring out ways to just win points and just randomly came forward. This time it was so tactical, so well timed, and his volleying skills as well. He always had good reflexes, I felt, at the net, but his ability to hit the drop volleys now of both wings and just being so present at the net. And he did serve and volley over like 4-3 break point in the second set, 6-5
Yeah.
set point down in the second set. So it wasn't just a change of pattern of plays. He was using it on the biggest points in the match. So that to me, I think showed so much courage from Novak that I hadn't seen. He went out of his comfort zone on the biggest stage. It's probably the toughest Grand Slam for him in terms of all stuff that has happened to him here, and he still did it. And he did it so consistently against Medvedev. It's not easy to serve and volley against this guy. We know he stands so far, and I would love to talk more about this, but I'll let you guys have a chance to speak as well on this. But yeah, it's not easy to serve and volley against Medvedev. His return positioning makes it a bit easier, but it's not easy doing it on big points. And he demonstrated so much variety in this match. I was really impressed.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think his net play has come on leaps and bounds, and he's now up there with the best on tour. I think his touch is just, it's so good. I think watching in the final, you wouldn't normally attribute that to him, and well, at least 5-10 years ago anyway. And it's funny when I did that. Well, it's a bit of shout out here for one of the videos we did, but the Djokovic analysis video that I did on the Laver Cup, and like go back to that because when I was watching him as well, I was just thinking when I really got down into the detail, there's so many things that he's improved upon in the last 10 years. And with Nadal and Federer, they've made incremental improvements. There's no doubt about it. But Djokovic has improved a lot more, and I think, okay, you can say, well, his base maybe wasn't quite as high to start off with, fine, but what the changes that he's made have been unreal, and it is real. Of course, there's the talent there, but it's real dedication, hard work, and just up here, complete tennis IQ. And I think Goran Ivanisevic said it pretty well actually after the final. Said that with Djokovic, he doesn't think he's going to stop, and the reason why he doesn't think he's going to stop at 24 or 25 slams is because nothing is ever enough. Like he just wants to continually improve and improve, and he's a perfectionist, and that's probably why he's at the apex of the sport at the moment. So, incredible mentality, and it's easy to just say, oh, you know what, I want to be the best, but he wants to be the best for 20 years. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous, especially with the guys that have come and gone as well. David, Anthony, do you guys have any thoughts on this before we move on to the next question?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the Djokovic-Medvedev matchup as compared to the Djokovic-Alcaraz matchup. I felt like the final of Cincinnati was absolutely blockbuster because there's so many ways that Alcaraz can hurt Djokovic. I felt like the U.S. Open final, I felt like a lot of the same things that Medvedev can do well, even though Djokovic plays a very different game, are the same things that Djokovic can do well. Back in rallies, it's almost impossible to hit through Djokovic. He can do so many things from the back of the court, especially when he's stepping inside of the court and being aggressive and taking on the Medvedev returns. I felt like there's very little Medvedev can do to hurt Djokovic, because Djokovic can, as has seen the second set, can just outlast him even at 36 years old. And the Djokovic Alcaraz match was just absolutely blockbuster. So I see where you're coming from, Ghost. I think the second set was an absolute thriller, though. But the first and third set probably didn't stand up to the level of the Cincinnati final. So I understand that part.
Yeah, David, any thoughts?
Well, I can understand the opinion about the final being bland, but I think in some parts, it was Djokovic's plan to kind of stop. I mean, obviously to come to net a lot, but to stop that kind of rhythm of Medvedev, did not want to get him just fully, and that's where he kind of ran into trouble in that second set. Is when he started just feeding Medvedev backhands cross court, and when the tennis was nice and like flowing, that's when Djokovic was struggling the most physically and losing these long rallies. Medvedev barely panting. So I think truncating and making the final kind of a bit like, I guess, sore for the eyes for some people, but I'd see it as like tactically very aware Djokovic in the moment where he's just down and out and he still produces a serve and volley winner from like behind the service box, just like barely running to the to the net. That's artistic tennis to me. So I think it depends on the person watching.
Yeah, it's a shoot tactical awareness, right? I think if you're someone who is able to admire how tactically sound and exceptional Djokovic was on the day, then and I think all of us here can appreciate it, but it just didn't have that competitive. Apart from that, I think Anthony said the second set, it wasn't as competitive. I think maybe, but whereas with Cincinnati, it was we don't know what's going to happen next. Whereas Djokovic was so good at carrying out the game plan that it ended up, quote unquote, being boring because he was just so good. If that makes sense, more than anything. But yeah, we've got interesting. This is like Josh is like going rogue here, saying slam predictions for next year. But okay, I'm going to caveat this though, because we are going to end up doing, most likely at the end of the year, with some of these guys and whoever else wants to join, we'll probably do, when we do our 2023 review, we normally do and look ahead to 2024 or the next year. And normally we give our slam predictions. So this can change. So don't hold us to these predictions because these are going to be off the cuff. Who wants to go first? Who wants to go first for 2024? This is just assuming everyone's going to be fit, I guess. No one wants to go first. I'll go first then. No one wants to get buried. Okay, Australia. I'll go Novak because he's just a safe bet. Why not? We'll go Novak. Roland Garros. There's so many question marks on whether Nadal's actually going to be fit or not, and if he's going to be back. If he's fully fit and he's back, I mean, maybe it's him. Can Novak really win? Like he would, if he wins Australia and then Roland Garros, it means he would have won 4 slams. No, he would have won 3 slams. Actually, he didn't win Wimbledon, but still, he would have won 4 out of the last 5 slams, which is pretty ridiculous. I'm going to go. I'm going to go a bit rogue. I'm going to go Holger Rune for Roland Garros. I want it to be Nadal because everyone knows I'm a Nadal fan, but I find it very hard to see him win another slam unless he's fully fit. I don't know if he's fully fit. He's a favorite. I'll say him, but I have suspicions that he's not going to be kind of fully fit, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go Holger Rune, which is a bit left field. Wimbledon. I don't know. It's between Djokovic and Alcaraz. There's not really many players on grass that have played that well, to be honest with you. Alcaraz has come through now. I'm hoping someone else can. I'm gonna go Alcaraz to defend it, and then I'll go US Open Sinner because I think it's finally about time that he won something and won a slam, even that is. So yeah, it's pretty rogue, but don't hold me to that. It's probably gonna change whenever I think about it.
Not as rogue as 2023 me going this year for the US Open pick. He went Sinner next year.
Yeah. What about you guys?
So I would say I'll say Djokovic for Australia. It's hard to bet against him there, and then I'd go with Alcaraz for the French. I actually really liked how he played this year as well. He started cramping against Novak, but I think he'll learn from that. He's shown that he can learn at a lot of times when he's messed up in the past or struggled in different tournaments. He's learned from that. So I'll go with Alcaraz for the French. For Wimbledon, that is there. I have to go through my head who I think can even win it. I'm gonna go super rogue for Wimbledon. No, don't want to go there. You said Rune for the French. I'll just tag along.
Tommy Poole or something?
No, I mean it's not far off. You're about as close as you can get. I'll go Taylor Fritz for it. For Wimbledon.
Taylor Fritz at Wimbledon.
Fritz at Wimbledon. That's even worse than Rune. It's wild. And then for the U.S. Open, I'll say Djokovic again. I'll say Djokovic take bookend the year.
Okay. All right. I like the Taylor Fritz one. If that happens, that is like genius because
that's a genius prediction.
He has about 5% ability in the net at the moment.
That's kind of true.
I
might switch up and say mid. Yeah. I was thinking I might switch up and say Medvedev for the U.S. Open. So I'll go Medvedev and Djokovic for Australia.
Go on then. Okay, nice. No, don't let us bully you out of the pick.
I think y'all probably should, to be honest.
Yeah, go on, David. Hasan, who do you want to go for?
I mean, I'm just going to say first off the bat, this is an awful question to ask just straight after the US Open. I mean, it's not even close to the end of the year.
Josh is already looking ahead, man. He's like, I don't care about the ATP finals, Paris, the Asian swing, forget it. Straight, fast forward.
Not seen the Asian swing in 4 years, and Josh is dismissing it. I mean, with the Rune prediction before, I think there'd have to be some because we've not seen really a lot from Rune since Clay. It'd have to be. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm not too convinced yet of his slam credentials. It's tough. Early, just shot in the dark predictions. I mean, you gotta go for Djokovic in Australia. Then the French Open. I mean, it's being set up as like Rafa's last hurrah, but we all know. I mean, he could still have more left in the tank, especially with having a year off, with just resting. We don't even know how he's going to come back. You know what? I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for Djokovic winning Australia, Djokovic winning the French, Djokovic winning Wimbledon. No Leaf Slam number 2 is coming.
Wait, what?
And then,
so US Open, okay, go on.
And then the US Open.
No lay again.
I thought David gave him the Grand Slam just now. I thought that's what just happened.
US Open, I mean, I don't even know. US Open always pulls something mental out of the bag, you know? Maybe Marin Cilic, the number 2 US Open, who knows?
What?
Yeah, I'll say this: if Fritz wins Wimbledon and Cilic wins the US Open, I think QualityShot tennis deserves a big raise.
Yeah.
5 views, Benny.
You'll
Okay.
get showed the big screen.
Well, we're like,
Rush.
we told you so.
Very
We
much.
told you so.
A massive influx of Croatian supporters. Hasan, what about you?
Yeah. I don't think I can top those picks. Would like to see a Silic Nishikori replay though. Australia, like you guys, can't go against Novak. The level he has shown there, like 2019 final, 2021 final, it's scary what he can do there. Unless someone beats him there, I'm not going against him. But a lot depends on the draw. If he's facing guys like Sinner, Alcaraz, Medvedev with back-to-back matches as a horrible draw, maybe he doesn't have the in recovery as he did some years ago. So that can change things. French, Rafa, I don't know what to say. Obviously, if he even gets to 90% of that level he has, it's really hard to beat him there. We all know that. But I'm going to go with Alcaraz. I think because of his forehand is massive, and when you have a weapon like that on clay, it really helps. Last person who had a huge forehand on clay, Dominic Thiem, he was getting the better of Djokovic there. So I'm going to go with Alcaraz for the French. Wimbledon, don't know what to say. I'll go with Djokovic. U.S. Open, yeah, it's. I don't think anyone has been able to defend this title since Federer in 2008 period.
No, they
No
haven't.
one,
They
yeah,
haven't.
no one,
No.
no one defends this. So I'm gonna go with Medvedev for the U.S. Open.
Okay, all right. That's a lot more sensible your pick. So um, that's fine. We don't mind it. We don't mind it. Okay, so next question. Okay, right. Hasan says, "Do you think anyone can beat Djokovic in the Australian Open, especially if we have a Djokovic versus Alcaraz final?" Which I guess is, well, all of us have picked Djokovic to win the Australian Open, so we're not too optimistic on that. But I guess really your question is, maybe let's approach it in the sense that who would potentially be able to beat him in the Australian Open, and then that will probably include the Djokovic Alcaraz matchup anyway. So, does anyone want to go first?
I can go first. I think Medvedev, this match, and if you look at his press conference, he admits he was really stubborn on the return position, and it was pretty evident. He should have stepped in to receive the Djokovic serve, and who knows how the match could have gone then. It was not a very complicated tweak, but maybe he was a bit fatigued mentally, like Fazan mentioned from the Alcaraz match. But yeah, it's the thing with Medvedev is he can take absolute smacks at the ball to return serve, but because he hits really flat, serving and bowling against him is maybe not as difficult as someone like Rafa makes you do. The ball is viciously dipping and it's difficult to control the volley. So with Medvedev, as long as you get into the net close enough, the volleys are often not difficult enough. Djokovic winning 80% plus points, even in the US Open 21 final that he lost in straight sets, is telling something to Medvedev. I think the guy knows he's really smart. He can make adjustments. He knows how to win points, and I think we'll see some tactical changes from Medvedev the next time he faces Djokovic, and he has a good chance, I think, to beat Djokovic the next time he sees him.
All right. Okay. Anthony David.
Yeah, I think Medvedev is a good pick because he reached two Australian Open finals in a row. So U.S. Open is kind of the big one that people think of him for, but I think the Australian Open is kind of a big tournament for him as well. Nearly having won the Australian Open, of course, in 2022, so he could have already had two majors in the bag if Rafa didn't do the incredible comeback. I think that Medvedev is a good shout, and listen, if Medvedev would just hit the backhand down the line on set point or just won that second set, found a way, then maybe we could have been looking at a different result at this point. So I think Medvedev is a good shout, and I think Alcaraz obviously you have to put up there. Australia plays a bit quicker, but I think actually against Djokovic that can be a good thing for Alcaraz. So I would be interested to see Alcaraz play more at the Australian Open. I think at this point we've still only seen him play, I think, is it twice? I think we've seen him play at Australian Open once, I think, as an 18-year-old. So it's really not been a lot of matches that we've seen in Australia. And I'd be curious about those two. I mean, with other, I don't know if there's anybody else that you would put up there. I mean, hopefully not coming out as I would be curious to see Jannik Sinner versus Djokovic on a hard court, but I don't think Sinner can do much against Djokovic at this point. So I really think it is Alcaraz and Medvedev that I would put up there.
Okay. All right. Okay. David.
So, I mean, this is kind of a wake-up call a little bit for me. After what Hasan was saying before about if Djokovic's draw gets a bit freaky at the Australian Open. I mean, we haven't really seen him like on a non grass court slam. Like these last 4 slams, he's had pretty kindish draws, hasn't he?
The draws have been
And
pretty good, to be honest. But I guess that happens when you're 1 or 2. It can happen when you're 1 or 2, to be fair. But he has had pretty good draws, yeah.
Yeah.
it does. I mean, the players have to kind of step up. It's not Djokovic's like responsibility for the players to win, but the back matches, I mean, could be tough, especially like a big server like Hurkacz we saw at Wimbledon. Kind of if you outserve Djokovic, then who knows what happens. But at the Australian Open, I mean, I think someone like a Zverev could really be awkward for if Zverev if he peaks, especially if he's I was thinking about this, if he stays outside the 1 to 8 seed range and he's like just sneaking in that 4th round slot, that could be
Nightmare.
terrifying for Djokovic in the 4th round. Could
Yeah.
easily see that go 5 sets, and
Yeah.
Djokovic, I mean, he has a good 5-set record, but I mean, Zverev has been beating top 10 players in slams as of late. I mean, compared to the whole rest of his career, like Alcaraz, Sinner, like he's beating people now that he wasn't even like having a
Yeah.
chance
I
against
think it might be
before.
because
So,
there's less pressure as well. I feel like
yeah, for
before he was
sure.
almost expected to, and now it's like he's gone under the radar a little bit. It's like the underdog mentality, and he's like, oh, okay, well, no one really expects him to win anymore, so he kind of just
Yeah.
get on with it, and there's less pressure, and I feel like that maybe seeps into his game, and that's why you're still seeing some double faults, but not as many, to be honest, as well. So yeah,
And
and that's an interesting one. But sorry to cut you off, David. Is there anything else you want to touch upon?
I mean, if we have like, I could foresee a brutal draw. Like if everything, if the stars align against Djokovic and he gets like I mean, assuming Alcaraz, Djokovic, the number 1 and 2 seeds, if Medvedev's in his half in the semis, and if like if Zverev's there, and there's different things that could definitely be harmful. Those kind of opponents, those big, long rally kind of, yeah.
Yeah. No, agreed. Okay, I'll give my thoughts quickly, and then I think we can get through the questions and maybe, including myself, try and get a bit more succinct. I'm conscious that it's nearly 40 minutes, and I don't know if we get through all the questions, and I feel bad for the people that who don't answer. Yeah, I think in terms of can anyone beat Djokovic, yeah, I think the draw is a big factor, as you guys are saying. I think Alcaraz, I think he's got less chance of beating him at the Australian Open than any other slam, is my thoughts, just because of how quick the courts are. And I think even though he said the other day that it's hard court, grass, and then clay is his actual preference in courts, I think, not sure whether that's particularly correct, to be honest, in terms of how well he plays on those courts. But yeah, I think he's got more of a chance on clay and US Open is slightly slower. Wimbledon grass as well, which obviously beat Novak at Wimbledon in the final. Medvedev, I think the faster the court, the more chance he has at beating someone like Nole as well. So he can just deflect the pace, doesn't have to generate it as much. So he's got a decent chance. Holger Rune, I think, is up there as well. I would like to see him versus Djokovic in a slam, just because he's beaten him in non-slam matches, and best of 5 is a different proposition, but it'd be interesting. Sinner, I'm less keen on now after that Wimbledon loss, to be honest, but maybe he could do something. Apart from that, no one, to be honest. Tsitsipas, I think, gets just demolished. So does Zverev. Even Zverev, I think Zverev could push him. I think, to be fair, Zverev maxes out. He's got a chance. He's got a chance. So I'll put Zverev in the mix. And actually, we forgot to mention the bad boy of tennis, Nick Kyrgios. If he's fit, he could beat him. In Australia at home.
If he's fit.
Yeah, but if he is, like, yeah, he could be anyone, right? Right, okay. Let's go to the next question. There's some comments here, so we need to answer those. Oh, here you go, Gene. Who do you guys think will end up in the tour finals outside of the top 8 in the race right now? Wait, who do you think will end up in the tour finals outside of the top 8 in the race right now? Do you guys know what that means?
So
Final-
so I think it means the players are in the race to Turin at the moment. So who are the top 8 at this point in time? And I have it here. It's Djokovic, Alcaraz, Medvedev, then Sinner, and then Rublev, Tsitsipas, Rune, and Zverev. So
okay, and he's saying who do you think is going to be the final top 8?
And a few players outside of those: Fritz, Casper Ruud, Alex de Minaur, Tommy Paul, Tiafoe.
Okay, I think who are the ones outside? Sorry, Anthony again.
Fritz, Ruud, de Minaur, Paul, and Tiafoe.
I think Fritz could sneak in. Everyone else, I'm not too keen on, to be honest. I don't think Ruud's going to do anything. TFO maybe as well, like he can go through. But Tommy Paul, I think, is maybe peaked this year as well. That's my thoughts on that. What about you guys?
I think, vulnerable people in the top 8 there. Tsitsipas hasn't really done much to prove of being in Turin yet, I'd say, apart from the start of the year. Someone like Rune, he showed last year that he could have a great end to the year, so he's going to have to repeat that to solidify his place there. de Minaur's had, career season, I think. So we'll see if he can sneak in. Yeah, Fritz, de Minaur, Fritz are kind of my people I'm keeping an eye on, I'd say.
Yeah, de Minaur what result that would be if he made it, right? He had a good year.
Year-end top 8, that would be crazy. I think on indoors he plays really well, though. He likes the fast conditions. It really allows his defense to be super effective and push through the court. I think that's great. Tommy Paul, I also like on indoor courts, the faster courts that we're going to see near the end of this year. But yeah, I don't know. To be my honest answer is my best guess is we're gonna have the top 8 that we kind of have in the world, because I do like Zverev and I do like Rune on indoors at this moment. I think Tsitsipas is probably just too good of a player to really have that big of a letdown as we get to the end of the season. So I'm kind of expecting us to have the same 8, to be honest.
Yeah, I think if we look at number 7, 8, and 9, Rune, Zverev, Fritz, it's 40 points separating them at the moment. So they're almost tied right now. Tsitsipas had a 500 buffer from these guys. I think Tsitsipas is going to struggle the rest of the season. He's mentally doesn't seem to be in the right state of mind. But probably
has enough love.
Buffer. Yeah, it's a season of love. They're both. So he probably
never about tennis this year. It's never about tennis.
No, of course it's not. It's about making sure that his head's braided correctly.
Yeah. So yeah, he probably has enough buffer to hang in there. But yeah, I think Fritz has a good chance to sneak in there. I agree.
Nice, cool. Okay, good answers. I agree. Right, okay. Oh, Max, tennis question. Did you see, just in case all the other questions weren't racing tennis, do you see Coco winning more Grand Slams? I can 100%. Go first. Yes. Yeah. I think, is everyone going to say yes? I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
But why don't we make it a bit harder? How many slams do you think she's going to win? It's going to be tough.
What kind of brackets of numbers?
Yeah. So I guess they say brackets of 1 to 5, 5 to 10, 11 to 15, 15 to 20. Let's say, and that's pretty like. I think beyond 20 is maybe asking a bit too much. So I think that's probably fair. I'll go. She's 19. She's going to play, 4 times? She's going to play another 10 years at least. She might be injured, though. So let's just say she plays 40 more slams. Even if she wins a quarter of those, that's another 10. Is that ambitious? I'll say the 5 to 10 range. I'll say a 5 to 10 range for me.
I'm going 5 to 10 as well. I'll say she'll win like 6 to 7, maybe 8 slams. That's what I would go at the moment.
Around 10 for me as well. Yeah, around 10. She's not. Yeah, I think she's going to keep rising. Definitely win. She's very young, but yeah, it's really hard to say beyond 10 at the moment.
I think in general, it's really hard for. At least we've seen over the last 2 20 years, for the most part, you've got to be like GOAT level to kind of get beyond kind of that 8, kind of even someone like Justine Henin, like it's really difficult to get loads of slams to rack those up, especially the competition nowadays. I mean, 5 to 10 to be my estimate right now.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement, which is nice, rather than the crazy picks we had at the end, all of us. That's cool. Right, okay. Next question. Ghost. Question: how would you advise Djokovic moving forward? Should he skip clay to focus on his strengths? I feel like he could get some more US Open and Australian Open titles, I think he means. I can go first because I'll be very quick. No, because I think with in the past, like Federer used to skip the clay because Nadal was so dominant at that time, and also his matchup against like Nadal was terrible, and Nadal would just absolutely destroy him when it came to Roland Garros. Even though Djokovic still is the underdog against Nadal and Roland Garros, he has beaten Nadal at Roland Garros before. That's the big difference. Also, Nadal towards the back end of his career, he might be injured. He may not be playing as well. He may even lose at Roland Garros, which is almost like blasphemous to say, but that's possible. And I think Djokovic, given that he just won Roland Garros this year, it doesn't make sense for him not to play it going forward. Also, the Olympics, by the way, is going to be at Roland Garros next year. So he'll want to play Roland Garros next year because there's practice for the clay Olympics, which is what he's going to want to win. Like that's going to be a massive goal of his next year, I would imagine.
Probably
the
more
rest
important for him. Yeah,
it's probably more important than any slam next year, to be honest. But yeah, you guys.
Yeah, so I think a big part of answering that question is the fact that he beat Alcaraz at the French Open this year, and I mean, he won the first set handily, and then the second set was very close. Alcaraz won, and then Alcaraz did start cramping, and you can say what you want about that, but I think that's notable that he did beat him at the French this year. And so what I think most people would say is his biggest competition. He beat him at the French this year, and I think he's shown throughout his career he's gone up against the best player to play on that clay surface. And I think you would be mistaken if you don't say that Djokovic's strengths on hard court on clay court are not up there with, I don't know if you want to say ever or the last 15, 20 years, but it is a very good surface for him anyway. And I think that it shouldn't be that much less than the other surfaces. I think he can still compete on the surface.
Top 5 ever on clay, I think. Like, if you look at his record, like if you look at his record on not just forget about Roland Garros where he's won it a few times, but it's more actually the other clay court tournaments.
Sure.
He's got phenomenal records. Like it's incredible. Like Rome is an example, but it's just because Nadal's been so dominant at Roland Garros, people forget that even Federer was a very good player. I mean, he not to the same degree as Djokovic on clay, but I just think it's one of those things that Nadal's just been he's created a monopoly when it's come to clay court wins that people maybe forget how good the other two were or are on clay.
If I could wrap up the point, he lost to Nadal 8 times at the French Open, which is really that's kind of crazy. So
yeah, 100%.
I think it's worth noting.
And a few of them are finals, right, as well. So it makes a big difference. Yeah. Hasan, what about you?
No, he should not skip, and I'm certain he's not going to skip. He's mastered the art of just peaking for the slams. He doesn't need much preparation now. He can just show up at a slam without playing any tournament, and he gets to week 2 and he just gets to that ridiculous level. So he's gonna save and plan his schedule accordingly, and just like you said, Olympics are there, and just play all these 5 big events unless he's really injured or is unable to.
Yeah, no, agreed. Gene, who do you guys think will end the year as number 1, Saba or Iga? I'm gonna go Saba actually. I think on the I reckon Sabalenka. I think I'll stick with her. What do you guys think?
Sabalenka.
David,
I'm
they're checking the points.
Checking
like
the points,
who's going to defend what? What can they get?
I'm going Saba too. I think she has a good race ahead, and she is defending finals of WTA finals, but I think that's not enough.
Yeah.
I'd kind of, I mean, from what we saw last year, Swiatek didn't exactly end the year the best she could. Sabalenka, I think, maybe got more motivation right now. I don't know. Yeah, I'd probably say Sabalenka, probably. 1,100 point lead right now helps as well.
Yeah, and matchups wise, I think she's really difficult to put away for anyone. Swiatek can run into difficulties on quick courts, low bouncing courts. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's fair. That's fair. Right. Matthew, this is more of a rant. Can the USTA stop filling up seats with celebs that clearly have zero interest in tennis? To be
Customer service.
fair, a lot of the celebs that I've seen, well, they seem to be enjoying it. It's not like they're on their phone and they're just chatting away and they're not watching. Whereas, some of the fans, to be fair, do. I've seen some fans do that, to be honest, where they've just been on their phone the whole time, like just not even paying attention to the match or chatting away, and they're not really bothered, or they're just there to drink. Like, I mean, each of their own, right? But you'd imagine you'd want people there who obviously want to enjoy the tennis in whatever capacity. And I guess it's more a question of, if you have certain celebrities there, they're going to be able to then potentially bring in their fans, if that makes sense, or bring their fans to the sport of tennis, who might be casuals. So I don't really mind it, and especially, for example, if they're going to be shown in like Breakpoint, the second series coming this year, if they're able to even get a little bit of exposure to talking to those celebs before or after the tournaments or during them, as part of that series, then those celebs can share it on social media, and then other people see and they say, "Oh, I watched this." So I think in this day and age, I think it can help grow the sport. I'm not saying they should just fill it for the sake of it. Like, it should be celebs, obviously, that are interested in tennis, but it's hard for us to know really whether they love it or not, to be honest, unless you sit in a room with them and talk to them about tennis. But what do you guys think?
Well, I mean, I don't really mind. I think, I don't know how knowledgeable, like, Anthony, do they get free seats, or are they like gifted them? I feel like Wimbledon, they're kind of put in different boxes and
It
things.
must be
But
gifted, surely.
Yeah, I think something
It
like
has
that.
to be, yeah. And
They're
it's
like
gold for
corporate
TV
seats, right?
ratings and stuff. People want them. Big picture, yeah. They do rev up the TV ratings and stuff. It's good for
Yeah.
the sport in that sense, and it's the same with so many sports. You look at Formula One. There's so many people waving the checkered flags, and they don't even know anything about the sport. So
How do you wave it again?
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think it shows that there are a lot of people who have a big platform watching the tennis. I think that's good. I just want more eyes to be seen to the sport, and the right eyes are always going to fall on the sport as long as there more and more eyes keep falling onto it.
Yeah, agreed. Before we get
I
to the
think it's
next
too
question,
damaging.
sorry, go on,
It's
David.
not too damaging, really.
No.
And it's not like people went overboard a bit with like I guess it's probably the social media posts that kind of got people a bit like angry, but during the coverage of the match itself, and they just kind of like and just show a bit of Matthew McConaughey, who really cares that much? Who really?
Yeah, I think he was sitting in Djokovic's box.
He
Actually,
was, yeah. And it's so funny because Djokovic, like, I don't know how close they are, right? But Djokovic, like, when he won, he came into the box and he was like, yeah, like, he was like proper like patting, he's like smacking
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey on the back and stuff. And I felt like Matthew McConaughey was like, I don't know what to do in this position. And obviously they're not that they can't be that close. So he was kind of like looking at him like, yeah, mate. Yeah, and I was like, okay, then.
It's like, I've been in some pretty crazy situations. This has got to be one of the weirder ones.
Yeah, exactly. He was like, I don't know what to do in this situation. But
Yeah.
Right, okay. Before we get to the next question, though, this is an interesting one. The young man with the badass mustache, that's you, by the way. Sorry, I can't remember your name. Makes a good point about non-his net play. Hasan, I'll try to remember that, yeah. Max was asking, this is it's kind of tennis related. Is Hasan also a commentator of QualityShot tennis? I think, Hasan, you've done one or two, haven't you? But you've done some analysis stuff, but he's a busy man.
Hopefully more things to come. Hopefully.
Yeah, maybe some of the topical videos as well, actually, because I feel like you kind of tailor-made for those. Right, okay. If we... Any other questions? Oh, what's this? Zverev was the one that brought in the best performances in this tournament. His matches versus Dimitrov and Sinner were signs to me that he is back. Do you guys think he can make it to the ATP finals? Yeah, I think we kind of said that he might have a chance, but I guess we can maybe answer the first part or talk about the first part, which is his level. So, I mean, do you guys think he is back to his best, and can he potentially now start to push on and get into the latter part of slams again? Going into 2024, I guess, is really the question.
I mean, it depends what your perspective of his best is, because for a lot of 2022, like coming up to that Roland Garros semi-final, he wasn't exactly like playing well, and then he kind of peaked, and he beat Alcaraz, and there's like the big what if moment, a settle.
No, see, he lost the
Lost the first
first set in a
set.
tiebreaker, like a really tight tiebreaker, and then second set went to a tiebreaker, and then he got injured. But just before the second set tiebreaker, yeah.
So I mean, it's also, I think, one question mark I have with Zverev right now is conditioning, in terms of, like, obviously the 5 set was brutal against Sinner, but then it was almost like Alcaraz just, and I saw it coming a mile off. It's like, okay, well, Alcaraz is into the the next round here, so I don't think he's back to his best, but he's definitely a long way there compared to how a lot of us might have thought he would be start of the year with the ankle injury.
Yeah, I can go next. I think I rate Zverev pretty highly in terms of how he hits his backhand. We know he's got one of the best backhands in the game. I think he's almost there. But Zverev has always been how well can he and aggressively can he hit his forehand, and how well can he defend his second serve. Those are his vulnerabilities, and the peak level I've seen from him, like David was saying and Fazan was mentioning, at the French Open match against Rafa. The guy beat Alcaraz at the French as well. Nobody expected him to, after getting decimated in Madrid right before the tournament. And let's not forget, he took Djokovic out of Olympics as well, 2021. So he can produce really high level of tennis, and on a fast court with his serve and his kicking, he's really dangerous. But I think David made a really good point: is has he been match toughened enough? I think his body needs to go through more beating to get to that level of endurance, maybe. But I think he's getting there.
Cool. Yeah, just on Zverev, actually, from my point of view, I think you make a really good point about his level. I think he's got when he's at his maximum level, he's very, very tough to beat. I think the problem is that he doesn't consistently reach that level enough. But I do think actually his game is good enough to trouble anyone on all surfaces, and I think that's why that clay match against Nadal, against the best player ever on clay, I'm not saying he would have won it, but he was playing a really, really good level. And I think maybe with him, it's not necessarily service dependent; it's more mentality dependent, in the sense, if he doesn't feel like he's striking the ball that well, he'll go into like really real conservative mode, and he'll be really loopy, like high and heavy on the forehand, cross court, not taking many chances, line, not really trying to push through the court, trying to look for errors from the opponent. Whereas when he is a bit more confident and he feels he's feeling the ball better, he starts going line more, starts flattening out a little bit more, and you can feel the confidence that he has, and he'll come forward a bit more as well, transition better. I think he needs to find a way to be able to play that way during slams more often. And to be fair to him, he has had some consistent results at slams the last few years. But the issue has just been he hasn't been able to get over that hurdle and actually win one. But he's had some close matches. The US Open 2021 semi-final against Novak, he probably should have won that. That's after he beat him in the Olympics as well. And he took him to 5 sets. And I think Zverev should have won that. David doesn't agree, but I think he should have. The 5 sets that they played, he had chances, and I remember commenting on. I remember doing the commentary for that match and just thinking, like, he had chances and he didn't quite, get over the line because of some bad like shot making choices maybe during it, and maybe a little bit conservative. But
Yeah,
go on.
no, sorry, I was just saying 2020 final against Team was up 2 sets to love and couldn't finish it off.
Yeah,
that
2
was one
match
of the
points
worst
away.
quality.
I think like 2 points away, like 5 times or so. It's like crazy.
Yeah. That was one of the worst quality matches I think I've
Very
seen.
forgettable
finals.
final.
Oh
Yeah,
gosh.
unbelievable.
A shame as well because Dominic Thiem has played so many finals and he's such an explosive player, but he'll remember for that. And obviously, if you watch the highlights of it, you'll probably think,
Yeah.
wait, he was like amazing, and you just think it's just so tight.
He's got to come.
So
He's got to
tight,
come back
yeah.
and win a French Open or something for us, I
Yeah.
think, because that's like.
I should have said team for the US Open.
Yeah, no. For sure. Anything else on Zverev before we move on?
Yeah, I don't have much to add. Hasan made a lot of good points about what his kind of strengths and vulnerabilities. I just like to say that he's playing recent tournaments. I feel like he's playing more aggressively, which I like to see from Zverev. But I feel like his general peak level is probably pretty close to what it was, although maybe not his maximum peak, because like you said, at Roland Garros, he played fantastic. But I feel like still match in, match out, maybe not quite where it was at his best, in my opinion. But I think he's getting there, and I think you might as well say that he's already pretty much back. If not to the 2020 Roland Garros, pretty much to where he was.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's like he should play that more aggressive style as well because his backhand down the line is one of the best in the game, and he can boss the backhand to backhand with most players, and actually, at his best, he can trouble like Djokovic in that ad court exchange, which like not sure many people. Well, off the top of my head, it's talking about 1 or 2, maybe 3 maximum players that can go toe to toe with Djokovic in that. He's the best player ever, I think, in that specific category. Max says, question, Draper, Shelton, Stricker, Menzies, which one do you have the highest hopes for in the next 12 months?
Draper, if healthy.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, yeah. If healthy. If it's a big if, right? Because I feel like Shelton on hard courts and a slam, but I think the US Open, the home crowd at Regina, I don't see him repeating the semi-final berth at like the Aussie Open or Wimbledon.
Then he made the quarterfinals at the Australian Open, and then he didn't win back-to-back matches the whole time until he made the semis at the U. I don't think Ben Shelton is one for being written off at this point. We can't really.
No.
Do that.
I agree. I think he definitely would. I think the issue is that it's going to be hard for him to maintain not playing well because he's so young, right? He needs to be. He's not going to be able to keep that up, like being able to just say, okay, I'm not really going to play that well, and then up until slam peak, like he's not on a Djokovic or Nadal, like he hasn't figured that out yet. I think that's just not coincidence, but it's happened, right? His draw as well has been a little bit favorable as well in those 2 tournaments. He hasn't really had to face like too many incredible players coming up, given the fact that he was unseeded as well. I think is a big thing, right? So, but no, he's a great talent. And thing is, he should have a pretty good Wimbledon, to be honest. Like he's got the weapons to do it. He's got massive serve. He's got a good net game, good transition game, big forehand. Like I don't see why he couldn't do
once,
something.
though, I guess was the issue this year. Anyway.
Well, sorry.
Only playing on grass like once in his whole life is probably the issue this year, I guess.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, obviously that's a big thing, but then, I mean, it's not a good comparison. But Alcaraz has not played much either. But I guess he's a bit different, generational talent. But I think it's more the case that if Shelton can, given that, let's be honest, he's not going to do much at the French Open. I don't think with his game currently. If I was him, I would just say, look, as soon as the French Open's done, like go out and start getting some experience like Tsitsipas did this year. He's tried to get a lot of experience on the grass, and like Tsitsipas, sorry, not this year, it was last year Tsitsipas did it, and he lost to Kyrgios in the end, but Kyrgios made the final, and actually Tsitsipas had made improvements on grass, you could tell by the way he was playing, and I think Shelton needs to do the same thing because the biggest thing is the movement on the surface. Like if you haven't played on grass, then it can be difficult, and just being able to adapt to the low bouncing courts. So let's see like how he gets on. But yeah, for me, Draper as well. David and Hasan, who do you think is going to have, or who do you have the highest hopes for you in the next 12 months out of these lot?
I can quickly go at it first. Yeah, I agree with you guys. Draper probably is the safest bet, but Shelton, I like Shelton, especially on hard courts. I think if you look at his match against Novak, which was obviously his highlight match of a tournament, the guy can clog up to 150 miles on his first serve, but the margin with which he sometimes misses his first serve is absurd. His first serve is sometimes out by miles. So he needs to find a way to control that power. And he couldn't out ace Novak. Both had 5 aces each in that match. So you can't do that with a 150 mile per hour serve. So I think he's got a lot of weapons, but needs to learn how to channelize those weapons. The guy can be really destructive, and he can rally. He moves pretty well for his size. He can rally from the back of the court. I think he can be pretty dangerous, but needs to make a lot of improvements in his game.
Yeah, David.
Well, I'd say Manzik is obviously the least proven out of those four. Only young, and Draper's definitely the most like he's got the most wins out of the four on tour. Is definitely an injury thing with Draper. I mean, all his career, juniors, everything has been just injury ridden. I think if Draper has like an injury-free next year, touch wood, I mean, he's definitely the most consistent, like potentially consistent out of those four in the next 12 months, I'd say. Even with his injuries, he still comes back and wins some matches. So that shows you how good he is when he gets to play.
Yeah, I agree. Interesting as well that 3 out of the 4 players mentioned were lefties, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's true. It's
yeah.
true. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem, Hasan. No problem at all. In terms of next questions, Ghost says, why are tennis fans so uncomfortable saying some matchups are better than others? No offense to Medi, but I regret we didn't see Nole versus Alcaraz at number 3. I guess hindsight's a beautiful thing as well. But yeah, I mean, look, I think we knew that on paper that probably was going to be, like, on paper, we knew that it was probably going to be close. But there was the mystique about Medvedev beating Alcaraz and then also beating Djokovic 2 years ago at the US Open, and the fact that, Djokovic always says he hates playing him because he drags him into these really physical matches. But yeah, I mean, look, I think all of us, including myself, because I know it would have been, if I'm being honest, it would have been a massive stream as well, like Djokovic Alcaraz. Like it would have been great to see, but I think it was good probably for the men's side that Medvedev came through. I think what would have been even better is if he won it, because then it would have been like, right, these two aren't just monopolizing the Grand Slams, but Medvedev couldn't quite do it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think Medvedev Djokovic, and I think Anthony was making this point earlier as well, is that anything Medvedev does, Djokovic can do as well. And it's difficult for him to win points against him, although he knows how to win points. But Alcaraz has 100 ways of winning points. Any matchup involving Alcaraz naturally turns out to be more entertaining. And looking at the big rivalries, Nadal Federer was never as intense as Nadal Djokovic, but people loved it because of the contrasting style of plays and how different the points turn out to be. With matchups like Djokovic Murray, Djokovic Nadal sometimes as well, and Djokovic Medvedev, so a lot of the points look like a repeat of them. They're great to watch, but the variation, Medvedev would hardly hit a lob against Djokovic. He had so many opportunities. Alcaraz just comes up with so many different ways of winning points. That makes the matchup so electric. And yeah, it's difficult to come up with a strategy as well if you are that versatile as someone like Alcaraz is.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would have been a massive match for sure if we saw Nole versus Alcaraz. I think, but I liked Faison's. I like your point, Faison, that that the for tennis in the future as a whole, for like future tournaments, I feel like it might have been good that the win was for Medvedev, because he really proved why he's been considered in the big 3 of this year and why he's been put up to that place. I think that that was good in its own right, and I think it's good for next year, going into next year. So in that way, the final maybe wasn't as good, but maybe next year will be more anticipated and exciting because of it. But yeah, I think Djokovic Alcaraz, I think we all would have been more probably excited to see a rematch of Wimbledon.
Yeah, David, any thoughts?
Well, I think a lot of people coming into that Medvedev Djokovic final were thinking, well, we've seen one-sided finals. We saw the Australian Open 2021, seen the US Open 2021, one-sided either way. We thought, well, surely this is the one. This is the one. I saw Gil predicted Djokovic in 5. A lot of people thinking 5 sets because Medvedev was looking so good versus Alcaraz. It just didn't really turn out that way. I think naturally Alcaraz with he has more weapons. It's going to be a more entertaining match on average, whoever he plays. But I was looking forward to this Djokovic Medvedev match. Didn't quite turn out the way we thought it would. He didn't bring the same level he did in the semis, Medvedev.
Yeah, so was I. Right, okay. A couple of interesting comments there. Matthew, Medvedev will win the US Open because Russia will be excluded from the Olympics and will be fresher than his competitors. It's quite an interesting point. And Taylor Fritz, wow, Anthony wins the boldest pick award.
Not Marin Cilic.
Not Marin Cilic, yeah. Oh, gosh. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. Right, okay. Next question. Oh, there you go. Ghost. Yeah, Cilic. People are laughing at Cilic pick. Yeah, that's about right. Okay, who else from Carlos's peers can win a Grand Slam first, like Sinner and Rune, for example? Oh, I like this question. Okay, so I guess that kind of age group. So we're talking Sinner, Rune. You can chuck in like a Nakashima. You can chuck in a Korda. Who else? Who am I missing? Musetti.
I mean, Draper as well. I would
Draper
put in
as
there
well. Yeah, I can put in Shelton as well if you want. I think anyone on the age of what? Well, I don't know if I'm
Matteo
right.
Arnaldi.
23. Arnaldi, yeah, for Arnaldi if you want, yeah. But yeah, I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, who's the next younger player, I guess, to come through and break the mold and actually make that breakthrough?
I think Holger Rune is a big one for is a big name right now. My question about Holger Rune is his stamina in the majors, but I think he's really found a really great game that's pretty complete. So I think he has the game and pretty fearless game, good mentality to get out of tight situations as well. It's really the physical problem with Rune is that he can't quite find a way to figure it out, but he found a way to play better on grass this year. He's been good on clay and on hard courts. But I mean, for me, obviously, I think Sinner is somebody who will. I don't know if he's ready right now. I kind of, especially after this U.S. Open, I feel like going over the line in tight, epic matches like that one might just be a consistent thing with him at the moment, at least. I kind of worry about that for Sinner. So kind of similar things for Sinner and for Rune. But yeah, I think tennis is unpredictable. I think at any point, one of those guys, like Draper, if he's healthy, like Korda, like one of those guys, if they have a really good run, maybe they could come out of nowhere and win. We've seen that in history of tennis before, where a young guy that you don't really expect comes out and wins, kind of like Alcaraz at the US Open 2022, although not the best example to give, but he wasn't ranked in the top 5 at that point. I think that there are a lot of those guys could. So I have faith in a lot of the younger players, but I don't know if we'll see them in the next 3 to 4 majors. Maybe 2025, for example, is a better guess for when that would be.
The love affair between Anthony and Sinner continues. But the thing is, like with Sinner, though, I'm not being funny. I think with him, right, he's got a fantastic game, but it sounds a bit weird to say, but I feel like tactically he doesn't change the way, like, let me not say the way he plays, but he doesn't change tactically how he approaches matches depending on the opponent. That's what I've noticed, and that's the feeling I get when I watch him. Now, I've not watched probably as many matches of him as you, Anthony, probably, to be fair, but of the matches I have watched, I feel like he plays one way, and he is trying to add to his game, which is great for variation. That's great, but you know, I find, like, for example, when someone will play Medvedev, they'll think, okay, well, I need to come and serve volley at times and like try and use angles or whatever else. And you know, if you're playing against someone else who's hugging the baseline, then you try and push them back, and you try different things, and you think, okay, what can I do to unsettle them? I feel like sometimes Sinner can be a little bit one-paced in the way that he is. Yeah. He's just like, crash bang, I'm just going to try and hit you off the court from the baseline, and you know, he's managed to also like bulk up his serve, which is great, and there are improvements there. Like, there definitely are. I just don't know whether it's enough to push on. Like, does he have that variation? And Matthew said actually Sinner is one-dimensional, doesn't have great variation. That's kind of what I'm trying to allude to in a nicer way. But yeah, I think he does have, and you can tell he's trying to add to it. And the reason why he's able to go toe-to-toe with Alcaraz is because he's able to match his power and physicality. But against other players like a Medvedev, the reason why he struggles with him is because he's not able to stick with him and adapt the way that he plays against Medvedev. He just plays the same way. Medvedev just soaks it up and just outlasts him. So yeah, I mean, in terms of, for me, the next player to win one, I mean, look, Sinner's got a great level. He could easily have 2 fantastic weeks and blow everyone out of the water. That's the type of player he is. But yeah, I agree. I think Holger Rune, I think he's also got this mentality that makes you think that, as you said, Anthony, it's more a physical thing. If he can just make sure that his body holds up for 2 weeks, I think he's got a really, really good chance. But yeah, I'll leave it to you and David and Hasan as well. I'll be back in a second.
So for me, I mean, the kind of up for grabs slam, like last, I mean, you'd say since Federer won it 2008, has been the US Open. But I think with Nadal not being healthy for the majority of the time right now, the French Open could be that kind of slight opening. We know Djokovic, I mean, his rally tolerance, like he's staying in the rallies, but he's not winning. Like we saw against the Medvedev match, the final there. He's losing those rallies more than he was.
Yeah.
French Open, I mean, could be an opening either next year or the year after. I agree with what you're saying before, Anthony, about Sinner's 5-set kind of coming through those matches. I don't see the credentials quite yet. I think the Alcaraz match in the US Open was especially painful. It's kind of led to a lot of heartache. But yeah, I think Sinner would be my pick over a Rune or a Fils or someone else for the first.
Nice one.
Arthur Fils is a good shout too.
Yeah.
Shout.
I lots of good points made by all three of you. Yeah, if I were to pick between Rune and Sinner, I think I would go for Rune. I just think he has mentality. From a mentality standpoint, I think he stands a better chance. And let's not forget the 2 big wins he's had against Novak, Paris Masters final and this year in Rome. And when Novak lost to him in Paris, he made a comment saying that he sees Alcaraz and Rune pretty much as pretty similar, one having a better forehand and the other having a better backhand. He rates Rune really highly. Novak has always rated him quite highly, and he's a tennis freak. I think Tsitsipas mentioned that he's practicing like 6 hours a day sometimes. He's crazy about tennis. I think he needs to manage his body better and get more offensive with his forehand so that he's not pushed that deep behind the baseline so often. So his court positioning automatically improves and he plays less physical matches if he does that. So Rune, I think I give him a better chance on all surfaces because of his mentality. And Sinner, massive game. I think there was a study done a couple of years ago on backhands and forehands, and Sinner, if you combine the spin and pace, he has the biggest backhand in the game. He can blow people off the court, and he's able to overpower Alcaraz. If you see their matches, he overpowers Alcaraz. It's a really difficult matchup for Alcaraz when he comes up against Sinner. So he can pretty much take him out. Maybe if it's a final, he doesn't have the edge mentally, but he can take Alcaraz out or others out if it's before a final. So yeah, he very well could win before Rune, but I think from a mentality perspective, I would pick Rune.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think, yeah, Sinner does have the fastest backhand in terms of MPHs. I think it's like 80 plus, which is crazy. But yeah,
I
think
crazy angles of the spin he has as well. He just ups the spin to a whole new level.
Yeah. Both spin and pace is so big. His backhand is crazy.
Yeah, pace generator. Very skillful player to be able to do that. That's fair.
Trying to find a good question here.
Yeah, let's see if we can find a good question in the chat.
Go. What do you think about Djokovic playing till 2028? Do you guys hear about this? About Goran saying that he wants to play 2028 Olympics in America. I don't know where it is. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think Los Angeles, if I'm not mistaken. I think in 2028. Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, I mean, maybe because he knows Nadal is coming back next year, it's like I don't have a chance about the Olympics next year. I'm gonna go till 2028 back when it's on hard courts.
Oh,
I think Hasan's out. There you go. I think Hasan's out. We can change the layout here until Faison comes back, I guess, or we can keep it like that. Doesn't matter.
there we go.
There you go. Yeah, nice.
I mean,
Let's see if
2028 is very it's a long time, and I think I saw on Twitter it'd be 41 in 2028. So
yeah, seems unlikely, but also he's the best 36-year-old we've ever seen. So it could be the best 41-year-old we've ever seen in the sport too. But I do think it
we'd
sounds a
have
bit
to see some
unlikely.
I don't know. I mean, his serve's already really good, like his spots, everything. He'd have to be kind of, I don't know, some Federer kind of crazy mode at
Karlovic.
that point.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that'd be wild.
Don't know how he keep up his movement at that age, but I
Yeah.
mean, he's already an athletic freak as it is. So
Yeah, I was going to say, because it's not just playing till 36, but it's playing till 36 with with one of the most physical game styles we've ever seen a player at the top of the game have, which is really what makes it phenomenal to watch Novak play. The constant sliding, the constant being out of position, being on hitting shots on the reach, particularly on the backhand, just on the full stretch, and the movement being absolutely essential to his game, hitting a lot from the baseline. It's just really remarkable what he's been able to do and to still be playing at such high level. His physical game across all surfaces, it's crazy.
He's going to be studied for decades in nutrition books and things.
Yeah, probably, I think.
The big question, the big question on everyone's lips.
I know. That's a good one. What happened to Felix? What happened to Felix? I don't know. I don't think we have good answers for you, but he was, what was it, match point up on Medvedev at the Australian Open last year, became the third man to push Rafa to 5 sets at the French Open, and went on 60-match win streak at the indoors. Then as soon as it hit 2023, he was like, I'm out of here. See you guys in 2024. Like, just didn't show up this year.
And then Fanini with the whole, did he have bowel problems? He went to the toilet 10 times or something in that match. Very, very bizarre year for Felix.
Yeah.
I think it's injuries, and then he's a form confidence guy, Felix. So not having matches, I don't think helps him come back. He beat Berrettini, but that's Berrettini at a Masters on a hard court. So that's a gimme.
Something like that. Yeah, listen, I think at his best in a big match, he can bring a really great game. But listen, he's lost at Wimbledon in the first round both the last couple of years. I thought grass courts were his best surface, and then obviously played really well on indoor hard courts. So hard court seems like it's a good one for him. But I don't know really what's happened. I mean, he has his weaknesses. Certainly backhand,
forehand.
Right. And kind of the second kind of return of serve sometimes can get away from him.
I have just nightmares of him just shanking backhand returns. It's just it's awful to think about.
Especially sometimes when they're he does better on faster serves. Sometimes when they're coming with no pace, I've noticed that's when he can just hit an absolute screamer of an error where it's wow. But I still like his game when he's at his best. I think he has a good all-court game, full control of the court, obviously an amazing serve. So I hope he comes back because he's talented. He doesn't deserve to be probably outside the top 30 by the end of the year if he doesn't do something on the indoors, unfortunately.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's going to be tough end to the year. He's got to, he's 14 right now in the world, and I mean, you've got I don't know how many points, 1,000 points altogether, maybe even more than that because he went semifinals in Paris. He's got points to defend. He really has.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to kind of maybe try to do a little bit of a speed round, kind of just speed through a lot? Because I feel like we haven't gone to a lot of it. No, we don't have to go crazy with it, but just a few here. Go for it.
Which player best describes your tennis playing? Says Cedric. Go.
Which player best describes your tennis play? I mean, I play with a one-hander. I always try to embody Federer, but I'd probably, if he watched me play, he would probably cry. So that's my answer to that.
Did you just say Federer?
It just said Federer, yeah.
That is brave. I like it. I like it. David, what about you? David, are you a righty or lefty?
I'm a righty. I mean,
Mm.
I'm really not very good. I guess as of recently, I'm kind of playing with more kind of slice and drop shots. I wouldn't say I'm like quite like
Dan
Shea
Evans.
yet, but like I hope to get to that level of the Taiwanese and play some ridiculous slicey drop shot tennis one day.
Who's the player you picked?
How do you pronounce her name? Shea, like the Taiwanese doubles player.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Shea
Yeah,
Su Wei. Yeah.
two-way. Yeah. No,
We're
okay,
we were
fine.
trying to do a bit of a speed round and kind of speed through some of these questions a little
Oh,
bit,
nice.
like try to give answers, but kind of
Okay,
get to
right.
more of the
Mine
tennis
was
field without.
oh,
Oh, go for it. Go
my.
for it.
I was just gonna say I was just gonna say who I play like, but you you guys are like move
Tried
on.
that earlier.
Savage. No, I was gonna say I think so for club level, I've got a pretty big serve. But I'm not particularly quick, so I have to pick someone who's got like pretty big serve and I got decent forehand. I got a decent drop shot as well.
Do you have a slice?
Yeah.
My backhand slice is okay. My backhand is improved, but it's nowhere near like the level of like it still needs work, I would say.
I'm thinking Milos Raonic,
Do you
maybe.
ever?
Yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna
that's
say,
not
like, do you
bad.
serve and volley? Like, good net game? Do you have a good net game where you like
Yeah,
come
I've got a
in?
decent net game, but it's more actually like kind of controlling the forehand from the baseline, like drop shots as
Right.
well, angles. But like I can move around well, but I'm not like the quickest. Like to be fair, in comparison to other players, because I'm a relatively big guy. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean that's right. Let's stick with that. That's not a bad shot.
All right.
We'll go with that one. We'll go
We'll
with
do
that
that.
one.
Yeah.
And tennis without Kyrgios feels different. How's he getting on these days? He's injured.
Yeah. One
Yeah.
match this year.
So,
Lost to
yeah.
whoever it was.
Yeah, it was Wu Yibing, wasn't it?
Yeah, Wu
Yeah, Wu
Yibing.
Yibing and
on the
when the
grass.
grass lead ups. I mean, he's one of the more talented players. So if he's healthy, he's always a fun watch. But
Yeah, for sure.
hopefully he comes back.
Arian says, which Grand Slam do you think has the worst crowd?
Ooh.
Rank them. Oh, that's harsh.
We'll have different opinions on this
Oh.
than Anthony.
Oh my gosh.
No, I don't.
I would go. I mean, it's difficult because I haven't been to all of them. I've only been to Wimbledon, but I mean, if I'm just watching on TV, things is difficult, right? Because I actually think that crowd noise should be allowed during matches nowadays with on-court coaching. I'm one of those guys, but if we're just talking about just standalone now, how the rules are, I would say maybe I'll put Wimbledon at the top, and then
Ooh.
yeah, it's a bit controversial, isn't it? And then I don't know, Australian Open maybe. I feel like Australian Open, French Open, or Roland Garros and the US Open. I've noticed that there's so many people that like interrupt points or like shout in between service points like this year. So in the past it would have been maybe Australian Open, but so I'll say Australian Open, Roland Garros, US Open. I feel like the
I
US
think
Open crowd can be the
it
most
was
rude.
particularly bad this year, Australian Open, with I think Djokovic returning kind of brought some bad eggs in the stadium that were kind of rah, rah. I think they stopped like a good few service games, like just single-handedly. Just yeah.
Yeah, from probably best to worst, I'd probably do Wimbledon, then let's see, and then I'd go with Australia, and then I'd go with US Open, and then I'd go French. I think Fritz would agree with the last pick as well. It was kind of crazy the match that we saw there between them. So also Hingis back in the day. Yeah,
that was pretty bad. Yeah, probably around. I mean, it's rotating kind of three. I think Wimbledon is probably the least defensive because there's a lot of people that just kind of watch Wimbledon anyway, and it's just not. It's it's an event a lot of the time more than it is tennis viewing for a lot of people. At least that's the way I see it. So it's kind of a rotating three of the worst crowd between Australian, US Open, and French for me. Depends on the slam, which one we're in.
I agree. That's the thing. I think the problem is that there's been so many like instances this year where people just shout in between points, in between serves and stuff, and it's people just have no fear. I don't think in the crowd, and that's why I'm just like, okay, well that's going to happen. Then just let there be noise, and the players just have to get used to it, and it might add to the atmosphere. But the problem is they still can't be like super loud in between points. In between serves and stuff. It needs to be general, like generic noise, if that makes sense. Like you can't have people shouting out still. I would imagine. So it's a weird one. I don't know how they'd sort that, but yeah.
I'm looking for a good question here in the chat. Something else.
No, playing it.
Yeah, Novak skipping Asian swing.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, he is skipping the Asian swing. I think is that all of them? I think that is for now. If anyone else has questions, then bring them in now. Otherwise, we'll kind of close it out relatively soon. But did I miss anything good? Well, any
Step down saying
that's a good one.
he's surprised by noise, serving voice skills. He used to be absolutely terrible in that during his peak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of is in line with what we were saying earlier. Well, I guess he's saying his peak is 2011, and then the 2015 season was it. But thing is, they're kind of two very different versions of
Didn't
Novak.
need to win with serve and volley then.
That's the thing. Yeah, I don't think he was terrible, but he wasn't as good. But his like style of play was very much kind of similar to Medvedev in a way, but obviously different style in the way they played. But the tactics were similar. It was like he was a backboard, and he would get everything back, and he'd break you down from the baseline, and he would make sure that you were the one making errors, and he'd just outlast you. And his serve, even at times, I'd say maybe 2011, maybe not 2015, because I think it has incrementally improved, was almost like a rally starter at times. It wasn't even a shot that he would try and win 3 points off. It would be like, okay, I'm going to get this into play so I can kind of, I might be able to get a decent advantage by hitting a good angle, etc. But I'm not going to try. I'm going to try and hit more a high percentage of first serves in, and then I can win from the back of the court, and I can hurt you from the back of the court. And the one thing that has always been there, though, to be fair, is the returning ability. Like best return of all time, that's always stayed consistent. And he's been able to come up with incredible return winners in big points and big matches. And that's just been unbelievable. And his offensive abilities as well, just like through the roof. And things, his physical capabilities were just like dialed to like 100 in 2011, 2015. I mean, ridiculous if you watch the matches between him and Rafa. Whereas now it's still amazing that he's sticking with these guys, but these guys aren't prime Rafa. Like that's the thing. That's the difference. So, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think really similar. I think it's crazy how noticeable that is of a tactic that he has introduced after Wimbledon, but it's very clear. Like after he lost the 2021 US Open to Medvedev in the finals, like, well, Medvedev, show me what you got. I'm going to serve and volley, and then that ended up working. It's very similar against Alcaraz. These other players kind of cutting off Alcaraz's kind of aggressive play against him and being able to come to the net more and play more aggressive himself. I think it's very impressive. I don't have that much more to add, but I think it's very interesting that he's at this point in his career, not only can he play from the baseline very well, but he has top tier net skills at 36, and he's only adding to his game. It actually reminds me of Federer, because I felt like Federer, even as he got older, was adding a lot to his game, and I felt like he was always staying very inventive and creative. But Djokovic is even like, I don't know, Djokovic says himself he thinks he can straight set the younger version of himself like 10 years ago. So I don't know if that's true, but he's adding a lot to his game.
I think if he was to play the young version of himself now, he'd be very frustrated playing him, to be honest. But
I think so.
I don't think Novak wants to play Novak at any point.
Yeah. Nobody does, and Novak's not the exception.
David?
I had a question here that I liked that I saw from Max.
Sure. Have you given your point on? Did you give your point on Novak?
Oh yeah, David, you can say.
I mean,
like, get through these questions.
I don't really have much to add. I mean, because I wasn't really a big tennis watcher at the time as much, but it is very impressive. I mean, the best athletes of all time. They are the first ones to evolve when any sort of kind of slight obstacle comes their way. And we've seen that with Djokovic, especially since 2019. Just he's become a new man, hasn't he? So impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you guys? It seems like you guys have gone in a random order of the questions. Is that why we're going back? I'm assuming is that why?
I just saw this one question. I thought it was
Okay.
good. I just want
Yeah,
to.
go on.
What do you guys think about Naomi Osaka's comeback? Yeah, I think it's very good to have Osaka back on tour. I mean, especially on hard courts, she was just an absolutely phenomenal player, hitter from back the court and just hit the ball so clean. So I really hope she comes back, and she's having a kid, so it's like all kudos to her, and I hope she comes back soon next year.
She's already had the child. Actually, she was at the US Open.
Is that right? Oh, okay. Yes, that's
so
right.
She's planning to play the Australian Open. That she said her plan is to play the Australian Open, and then I think her schedule is pretty packed. So she's said she's going to try and peak towards England. Yeah, I mean, let's see how she gets on. But
yeah, that's great.
I mean, obviously, Linus Svitolina had a pretty good one. Have we answered this question already? Did you guys answer this question?
No.
Okay, we'll come to that in a second. David, what do you think about Naomi Osaka's comeback?
Well, I think it's all depending. I mean, I'm looking forward to Osaka coming back. Hopefully in the right kind of headspace, everything. I think with she even made the Miami final, even when she was kind of wanting to have a kid and things. So shows you what she can do, even when her head's not really there. She can just kind of have a good week or two and just go crazy in a big tournament. But I think it's all up to her, how she's mentally feeling. I mean, if she wants to really commit to, if she's motivated enough to compete with these players who, I mean, Swiatek for one, she's wanting to overtake Osaka in slams. So if Osaka wants to kind of start a new little rivalry, that would be good.
Yeah. If she can get back to her best, then that would be great, because the stronger the more strong players we have on the WTA side, the better, and that continues to be the case. So hopefully we can add to that as well. Kay said, I'm very curious about the Australian Open being so much faster than the US Open. So then what makes a good hardcourt player at either court speed or at only one? I can go I'll very briefly talk about this, because we could talk about this for a long time, but I think there's definitely a disparity in speed on the two courts. I think we still need to, though, take into account that the US Open is still I think it's a medium to fast hard court is what it's classed as, and the Australian Open is a fast hard court. So there is a difference in speed. It's not as big as it's not a slow hard court though, the US Open. So just bear that in mind when we're talking about it as well. In the past, it was, I would say, medium when Nadal was winning it, and that's I think that definitely helped. But yeah, in terms of the differences and what players, I think, for example, I mentioned it earlier, like someone like Medvedev, who doesn't necessarily generate a lot of pace on his ground strokes, he is helped by someone like the Australian Open. Even though he's had good results at the US Open, I think I would generally say his game is actually better, or should be better, at the Australian Open because of how the courts play. But that doesn't always the court doesn't, and the court on the surface isn't always the biggest factor, because sometimes it is the crowd or how they're feeling going into it. Because a really good example of where it's a bit weird is someone like Tsitsipas, who you would expect to have better results at the US Open because it's a slightly slower hard court. And of course, his game, being able to have more time on the backhand, his one-hander, you would think means that he'd have better results at the US Open. But his US Open results have been terrible for his whole career. Whereas at the Australian Open,
he's only had good results indoor hard, really.
Yeah. Well, and the Australian Open, right? He's made the final this year and then semi-final. I think he made 3 semi-finals back to back before that. So the Australian Open is quicker. It's the quicker of the two slams, and yet he's had better results there. So that's a bit random. But a good example is Rafa. Like, I guess if we want to pick one which is actually in line with what we think, Rafa's won the Australian Open twice. Yes, he's made a lot of finals as well. But the US Open he's won 4 times. And I think that's just because he had a bit more time. The courts are bouncing a bit higher. It's more humid as well, I think, at the US Open compared to Australia. It was kind of more dry heat.
don't think the
And
start of the year suits Rafa as much as like he's really comes
Yeah.
into his own. And
yeah, and
plays
that's the
easy.
thing, right? And you're talking about other factors, and that's the thing. That's why it's difficult to know. It doesn't always match up the way that we think.
Mhm.
I think different surfaces completely, yeah, and I think that's one that I might have to do a topical video on because it's really interesting. But I think they're not as different as maybe you think. The Australian Open, US Open, in terms of how the courts actually play. It's more to do with the conditions, the humidity, the crowd, how people feel. Some people, like some players, they'll come onto a tournament and say, "I just love the atmosphere and the court," and so they'll just play better. Like that's literally just, it was just so random to think about, but that is actually one of the points. So yeah, Anthony and David, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I want to say that I think it's not maybe like the how'd you say it? I think it's hard to categorize kind of the thing about it's not stone it's not set in stone that a certain tournament is a certain surface or certain conditions, and then that means that a player is going to be playing super well at that tournament. I think also results and results that you've had in the past and confidence coming into the tournament play a factor. And it's like I said, it's hard to categorize, but it's a sport of small margins. Like Sinner could have won that match against Alcaraz at the U.S. Open, and then maybe this year his U.S. Open would have been different. It's just like it's or I mean there are other examples as well, but it's stuff like that where it's just like. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to categorize exactly a player's results and always predict it perfectly with the surface. But yeah, to answer the question, what makes a good hardcore player at either speed or at only one? I mean, obviously clay plays. The people stereotype, I think, the surface is too much into one thing being one thing, but generally clay obviously more for kind of rally ball players who kind of grind it out. And then the grass court is for kind of the faster courts, big servers, and people like to come to net and really take advantage inside the court rather than lateral movement, really moving in and out of the court. And also touch shots. So I think hard court's kind of the obvious in between one. So the ones that can kind of do the in between and play well against players who hit a bit faster, players who hit a bit slower, and can kind of hit a little bit in between and be comfortable from the back of the court in either way. I think that's really categorized. And obviously at the Australian Open with the bigger courts, obviously big servers are going to do better on the faster courts, kind of the obvious things. But yeah, I think that those are a few things. But yeah, the Australian Open, the heat makes it play faster as well. So both play fast, which I don't know how much I like that. Maybe we do need a little bit more diversity in the court speeds, but they both play fast. But Australia is definitely faster.
Yeah, David.
Yeah, I think you both kind of summed it up pretty well. With U.S. Open kind of being, I mean, like famously a more like equalizer for the players that are not in the big four. Big four. I mean, Andy won it once, but in the big three, to win it, I think that comes down to the court speed as well. I think Djokovic is so suited to the Australian Open, not so much the US Open. That's kind of there's definitely differences that are
Yeah, no, definitely,
important to
definitely,
say, but
for sure. Thoughts on Halep? Seems it is kind of drug that this was
woeful.
willful for sure. A step down. I mean, yeah, I mean it's tough to know. David, Anthony, do you guys want to go? I mean, I think I can very quickly in 2 seconds say that it's difficult to know. Like, don't really know all the information. So, hopefully, she hasn't done it willfully. Like, she's done it. It's a mistake. The one thing I will say is that bans in tennis are a lot longer than some other sports, like NBA, etc. I've seen, but it's difficult. I also follow something like boxing quite closely, and I feel like the bans are too short there. So, but that's a bit different. It's a physical sport where, like, your life is potentially on the line. So, yeah, what do you guys think on this?
Well, Medvedev would disagree about life on the line. I mean, that is the most brutal sport out there.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I was a big fan of Halep while she's playing. I just hard to know which one way or another. I hope that she didn't, that she wasn't willfully participating in that way. And I would like to see her back on court soon, just from a tennis standpoint, because she was amazing. And that's all I can say about that, because I don't know anything about the drug suspension. And then also, I'd also want to mention players on the ATP side like Mikael Ymer and then also who has a Jensen Brooksby as well. I was personally a big fan of Ymer and how quick he was on the court. So I don't know anything about their situations, but just to see a guy who I was this excited about having the best season of their career, and then suddenly it was like I'm retired earlier and I felt like that was dropped off too quickly. And I don't know his situation, but I hope that doesn't happen to a lot of the players. And,
thing is, Ima didn't actually fail one; he just missed his. So that's a bit of a it's
pretty
just
drama queen moment to retire after that.
He was negligent, right? I think he was banned for 2 years, which still is a bit extreme. Given was it 2 years or considering he's missed them.
I felt it was an extreme punishment for that.
Yeah. I think people say like when you miss them, like, oh, is that because they're doping? It's like, well, we don't know, but obviously it's not great, and people do make mistakes. I think you have to miss it 3 times, but probably something that we would have to do more research on and kind of discuss in detail. I think. But David, is there anything you want to add on before we move on?
No, not really. I mean, I echo what you guys are saying. Hope that people aren't willfully doping, because it just ruins, fair sport. And as much as like, if there was a separate category of sport where everyone's just doping to the max, so we could see how fast people could run, that would be fun. But not in fair tennis. Not in fair tennis. Everyone's playing by the same rules.
And to be fair, tennis generally speaking is pretty good. I mean, like as I was saying, I follow boxing quite closely, and it's completely like riddled with PEDs and stuff. So let's not get tennis to that level, please. I think it'd be ridiculous. Right, okay. Ghost says, do you all know who has announced their absence from the Asian swing already? I know Djokovic isn't playing in it. I don't know. Do you guys know any others on the WTA or ATP side? Yeah. Okay, we'd have to look into that. Sorry, Ghost. Paris Bercy, that's a slate black courts, right? Very elegant. They're the green ones, no? They're the
kind of green ones in the back.
Yeah, turquoise ones. Yeah. Quite cool, actually, to be honest. Indoor ones.
It might be Laver. I mean, Laver Cup kind of has the pitch black.
Yeah, Laver Cup has the black court. I like the trophy as well for the Paris Masters. Very interesting.
Yeah, it's
unique.
I skipped this question because it was like, I feel like I've answered this 59 times or something.
David, how many Q&As have you done? But yeah,
in my head.
We can go quickly. Okay, right. Okay, off the top of my head, I'm gonna go 12. You guys?
I'll go 10.
I'll go 14.
Ooh, cheeky. Right, okay. I like it. And Ghosties picks for 2024. Australian Open, some dude, Trevisan. French Open, some dude, Trevisan. Yes, some dude, Trevisan. You almost think that Ghost has a thing for Trevisan. Right, okay. Farron Ghost, what's going on with Trevisan?
Trevisan doesn't know.
Trevisan goes crazy next year.
Yeah. Did you guys answer this one? What do you guys think?
Yeah, we did. We went through that one.
What happened to FA?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
I think we're up to date to the last few.
This one as well, yeah. Cool. We can go down.
We covered it a bit with the Sinaruna question.
Fine. Perfect. Cool. We did. That's fine. There was some that I saw coming after. Let me try and go to the top rather than. Okay, this was one I know. We haven't answered. Okay, we've already answered that one, so that's fine. Cool. Someone's fire alarm's going off. Paolo goes.
Oh, sorry. I think that's on mine.
That's right.
Oh, there you go. Sorry about that.
Someone's burnt something. Paolo goes. Someone's burnt the toast. Paolo goes. Paolo, who's actually from, I think he's from my tennis club. So I didn't even know that he was a subscriber, but he like basically.
That's awesome.
He came across in tennis. He was like, "You're the YouTuber, right?" I was like, "No. I've been in club for a long time, but yeah." But no, he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
Shout out to him. Says, will Musetti ever get chances to challenge the top players?
He has challenged them.
I think he more means like, will he have a chance to beat them and like start to? I think he means challenge them at the top of the game. I don't think he means like be able to play against them. Like, because we're not really talking about him, to be fair, right? Like we were talking about Runa and Sinner, and he's not really part of the conversation. So what do you guys think? David, do you want to go first? Anthony, and I'll go last.
Well, he's I think he's made his top 20 debut this year. Look, 18 in the rankings. I think he's well. From what I've seen, I mean, his backhand's always been a big weapon. His forehand, he's trying to get it more kind of.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry,
David. That was the wrong one.
Did he just meet you?
He's trying to get the forehand kind of functioning with everything, but it's tough because it kind of reminds me a little bit of Dimitrov in like how far can he really go with. Are his weapons big enough on a consistent enough basis to, as much as I love his game and the way he plays is really nice to watch. I think it's tough for me right now seeing him top 5. I think top 10, but I don't know about top 5.
Yeah, I think his backhand is one of the best one-handers on tour. There's some things that he needs to iron out. I think his serve is one. He needs to improve that. Also, his shot tolerance as well. The forehand, he needs to make that a bit more of a weapon, I think. And he does try to come forward. He does volley, and his transition game isn't terrible. But I think it's for the decision making on court. Like he clearly has like bundles of talent, but he fluctuates so much in his level. I find as well. So, and he struggles, I think, with the players that really grind it out on court. I feel like he struggles to break them down sometimes. Anthony, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was actually going to say, I think he struggles against the very top big hitters as well. I've noticed as well. Some of the big hitters can really break down, especially his backhand, and he can kind of fall deep behind the baseline and his shots start falling short. So that's something I've noticed. I think he's constantly improving, and I really am very high on his talent levels, which I don't think is a huge hot take, but I think I think he's a hard worker, very passionate, likes the game. So I reckon he's going to keep improving. I'm pretty high on Musetti, and my answer is I think we're going to best know within the next couple of years, which makes this the most interesting time to talk about it. But I think I'm not completely counting out top 5, and I reckon he's definitely going to get top 10. Is my opinion on it. I do like Musetti and where his talent is at, and I think he is falling outside the conversation, and I hope that he falls back into it, especially on clay courts. He's very good, but I've seen him play a good ball on hard courts as well. So I hope that he can get to a place where he's consistently challenging the top 10, top 15 guys and getting those wins, if not higher than that as well.
Beat Djokovic this year, I mean. So
yeah, exactly. So yeah.
Arian, okay, let's.
That's a great question.
Yeah, we'll give an answer rather than go into full detail because this is like a 20-minute video, I think. But so right, 2011 versus 2015 versus 2021 versus 2023. Novak, that's a tough one. I'm gonna go. I'm trying to think about who he played in the finals in these years. Is more the big thing. I'm going to go 2015. 2015.
Can I ask a logistical question? Are we going by majors in that season or the season itself? Because I feel like those are like two different questions.
Itself.
You know what
I think the season in itself, to be fair.
Because these are the 4 seasons in which he won 3 majors. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go 2015. I think the thing is, it's a bit unfair because 2011, 2015, he played more tournaments. So maybe you can say his level, if you want, in that year. To be fair, as in which Novak was the best in those years. Maybe to 2015. I'm gonna go 2021. No, 2015. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. 2015, 2021, 2011, 2023. It's a bit weird. At the bottom. I don't know. I just feel like the finals he played this year. So what? So he played Australian Open final. Tsitsipas destroyed him. Tsitsipas was underwhelming. French Open Ruud again underwhelming. I thought for the most part. I didn't really challenge him. Alcaraz beat him in the Wimbledon final, and then US Open final Medvedev didn't play great. Whereas I feel like in 2021, who did he beat? He beat Berrettini Wimbledon final, French Open.
Australia was Medvedev.
Yeah, Australia was Medvedev. Who was Roland Garros? Because it would have been he beat Nadal. I know
from 2 sets down.
Yeah, Okay, so
Yes.
Nadal in the semi-finals, sits past from 2 sets to love down. 2015, 2011, you're really testing my knowledge there on if I remember, but I'm assuming Team was in a couple of them or one of them. Federer, I think, Federer was in one as well.
Federer beat him in Roland Garros semis.
Yeah, and he
2011.
beat Fed in the 2015 US Open final. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with it. It's tough though. I'd have to really look at that. What do you guys think?
Me personally, I'd go. I mean, it's probably kind of what most people would say, but 2015, 2011, 2021, 2023.
Well, that's
Even
what I
though
said. You said it was surprising.
no,
My
you
pick.
said the other way around. You said
Did I?
2015, 2021, and then
Oh, okay. Okay.
because I'd say even though 2023 was like 2 games away from the calendar Grand Slam, in hindsight, I think 2015, what he did in the Masters as well, it trumps it. Trumps everything.
Yeah. For me, I'm putting 2015 number 1 for the year as a whole because he reached 8 of 9 Masters finals that year. If I'm correct, he
I think
had
2015 Novak.
Yeah, he had 23 or 31. One of the, I don't know why those are two. He had a lot of wins over top 10 in that year, the most ever. I think 31 wins over top 10 players. And he, obviously 3 of the 4 major finals, playing against a very, very high level version of Federer, one of the best ever. I think 2015 was his best season personally. Then I go 2011. And then this is the biggest hot take. I'm putting 2023 third above 2021. I think 2021 was obviously the calendar year Grand Slam, and that is very impressive in its own right. But I think y'all mentioned he beat Tsitsipas in the final, Berrettini in the final. He beat as well, who was it, Medvedev in the final. And Medvedev is very tough, and that was seen at the US Open as well. But I think that for me, his whole year as a whole, he didn't play that many tournaments that year. He didn't do that great at the Olympics. For me, 2023, doing it at 36 years old this year just is so impressive. Beat Alcaraz at the French Open before winning the title, which I do put a lot of weight on. Medvedev in the final here physically outlasted him at 36. I think I would put 2023 above him. So that's my order for that.
Cool. I think we all agree 2015 is the best version. I think is what our thoughts are. Yeah.
Okay.
On that, to be fair. What are your thoughts? Controversial. What are your thoughts about slams moving from 5 sets to 3? Cincinnati's final was by far the best match of the year. That's also a controversial comment because I would argue the Wimbledon final was the best match of the year.
By far is a crazy.
Yeah, I think so
words
too.
There.
Yeah, I mean, my thing, I would just be quick. I think they should stick to best of 5 because I just think it adds something unique to the slams, and I really enjoy them, to be honest. But what do you guys think?
I could probably go way too, like I could probably go 20 minutes on this topic, so I'll keep mine short too. But I just want to say when players talk about their best memories playing matches, that a lot of them often pick out the 5-set matches, and I think obviously the fans do as well. When you talk about the most epic matches ever, people talk about the 5 sets, and if you're pointing to great 3-set matches, of course there are going to be great 3-set matches. But for me, it's like you have to think. I would think that you
first,
yeah, those are the ones that come to mind first, and then also like just the fact that at the end of a match, after 2 players playing some of the most difficult thing that you can have in a sport, which is 4 or 5 hours of just nonstop physical exertion and just a mental battle, trying to out-strategize each other. At the end of it, the adrenaline picking up, the crowd atmosphere picking up. That's to me what it's all about, and I don't think you can get exactly what you get out of a 3-setter and a 5-set. So that's my kind of opinion on it.
Yeah, and it's funny because one of the biggest advocates for moving it to best of 3 is actually Andy Murray, David's idol. Do you not know that, David? He is, yeah. He is.
I didn't know that either, and Murray's one of my favorites too.
No, Murray's. And
I think I might have heard it, but I might just have like ignored it, just like no.
No, he's
tuned it out.
So when it first came out about it, he was like, no, I think he said one of his things was, I can't pay attention to best of 5 matches when I'm watching. Basically, he doesn't think that fans will stay like he doesn't think like for fans to come on board to watch it, they're not going to watch a whole 5-set match. It's ironic though, because a lot of his comebacks have been in 5 sets. Like recently after his comeback, he's won those matches, so it's funny. But I mean, he's entitled to his opinion.
First Grand Slam title was in 5 sets as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. Okay. We'll do the last few, I think. Alberta says, who do you think should focus? Who do you think should focus more on doubles going forward to achieve immediate success? Ooh, that's interesting. From Trinidad.
Who?
Yeah, who?
What?
So, are there any players that we think
would
be good in doubles? Like, I guess Kyrgios won a doubles Grand Slam, and I think she's saying that basically is anyone that we think from the singles who might struggle to win a slam in the singles, but if they played doubles, would actually be able to do quite well in the doubles and win one. I think the first people that come to mind, the big servers, people like and go to the net like Apelka and whoever else. I mean, obviously Kyrgios did well, but even Berrettini I think would be good in doubles. But obviously I don't think they want to play doubles, but I think they would be pretty good. What do you guys think?
The first guy that came to my head was Hubie Hurkacz, and I think my
good
problem with him is he's won a Masters in singles, and I just don't know if I want him to off the singles. But I think if he goes to doubles, he's going to win majors. I don't know if he's going to win, like he's going to become number one or something.
I think he won Miami doubles with Isner.
Yeah, I think he has. Yeah.
Oh my God, Ace Central.
Is he the only one is he the only player who's won a Masters in singles and doubles at the moment? He might be, I think.
Well, Nadal won with random
Feliciano Lopez or someone.
Mark Lopez, maybe.
Mark Lopez, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, so Nadal and Hurkacz, I think.
Very nice.
Big
that's what
servers,
Hurkacz came to mind.
Yeah, indeed. Right. Okay, David, is anyone off the top of your head before we move to this question?
No, not really.
That's fine. Actually, who do you think Muratoglu will work with next now that Halep is suspended for 4 years? I guess because Coco Gauff came to the academy, but she's obviously working, like he's not working close with her, in the box, and he's now not working with Holger Rune. I don't know, to be honest with you. I have no idea. It's hard to know who's going to work with, but do you guys have any guesses?
What I will say is Halep will appeal this, so we'll see
she will,
how that turns out. If she might play in like 6 months or something, who knows? But Muratoglu, Coco went through the Muratoglu Academy, so maybe Muratoglu might just kind of snake his way back in there trying to.
No, he won't though, because they won't let it happen, will they? Because Brad Gilbert, I don't think that's going to happen, but I could be wrong. I'd be surprised.
Do a Brad Gilbert impression of him not letting that happen. No.
Yeah. Right. Okay. I think that.
I don't.
Yeah. Go on.
I don't have any good answers for that. I think I don't know. So it's up in the air.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. Okay. What I'll do is I'll just mention some of these comments and wrap it up. Stefan says, I think the best ever season on the ATP was 2015 Novak with 16,000 points. That's unbelievable. Matt says, I think his seasons were better in 2011, 2015. Were better, but his level is better now. Interesting. And Hasan says, wow, you guys still going? For me, it was 2015 Novak, better than 2011. 2023 version most complete mentally and tactically strongest, but probably 2015 edges due to higher intensity. And Arian says, Novak at the start of 2011 was a monster. He had a 41-match winning streak, only 2 losses till the US Open. It's unbelievable.
Crazy.
He was more consistent in 2015, but level of play in 2011 is the best. Also, a 6-love record against Rafa. Yeah, that was the period where Rafa
loss between against Federer and Rafa in 2011, right?
He couldn't Rafa just genuinely could not beat Novak. It was so weird. Like went through a period, and even though obviously now the head-to-head's 30-29, but there was a period where Novak on all
clay finals as well. Back-to-back finals on clay.
Rome and Madrid right in a row.
Yeah. Absolutely, so bizarre. It's like he had a cheat code. It was absolutely crazy. Right, okay.
I remember that was insane.
Yeah. Okay, guys, we're gonna wrap it up there. I think. Anthony, David, are you guys okay to wrap it up?
Yeah.
I'm good with that. Yeah,
appreciate it. So. Yeah, thanks very much, guys. Stay safe and well, and we will have. Well, actually, if you haven't already, go and check out the new Tennis 360 podcast that's out. Anthony and Eliza did it last night, but it was released early today. So make sure you go and check that out. It's also time-stamped. Some great chats there as well. Some interesting segments on there as always. and some good insights. So go and check that out for a full breakdown of that. And I've got I should be doing a live with another YouTuber, hopefully Thursday, on the US Open. That will conclude our US Open coverage. And then we're going to look forward to other bits because we can only talk about it for so long. But yeah, thanks everyone. Ashley, Aaron, everyone else as well. Appreciate it.
Who's the other YouTuber?
It's a secret. No, you can probably guess who it is. But
I think Djokovic has a YouTube channel. If that's who it is, it's
Kazakina's YouTube. Kazakina's
Yeah.
YouTube.
Actually, Patrick
I think he
Moritoglu.
has one. Having some secret discussions of
You know what he's doing after
Exactly.
leaving.
He'll
Moody.
come on and be like, "What are you talking about? That I'm not going to be able to coach anyone." The Coco Gauff loves me. But anyway, right? Okay, thanks, thanks, guys. We'll see you later, very, very soon.
All right. Thanks.